I'm Val the Realtor. Welcome back to my channel. This week I'm in my work clothes because I'm at a renovation site. My daughter and I, we bought a property and we embarked on a pretty ambitious renovation. And now we're nearing the end and I want to give you a sneak preview of the kitchen. So this week I wanted to profile the kitchen. The kitchen is very important. It's the heart of the home and it brings you the highest rate of return on resale. It's also the most used in the house, so it's important to invest in a good quality kitchen. So this kitchen, I went to Echo Cabinetry. Echo Cabinetry did the kitchen in my personal residence and I had such a positive experience and great quality cabinets that here I was 3 years later, I went to Echo Cabinetry again to do this kitchen. So we changed the configuration slightly because it was a horseshoe. And the dishwasher had leaked. So we had to move the dishwasher, we had to change the configuration so it's much more functional. Keeping with city code, we wanted to add an island, and an island is not supposed to be movable in a kitchen, and there's a reason. And that's because to code, you have to have electricity to the island. So we had to add electricity to the island, so we had to cut the hardwood, bring it through. So because we were doing that, we decided why not put the microwave in the island, and there will also be a plug here. The other big important thing when you're purchasing cabinetry is that they put this reinforcement board on top. The reinforcement board on top helps keep the cabinetry plumb square, and it will also support the weight of stone. So when you're picking cabinetry, always inquire if the cabinets are good enough quality and strength to hold the weight of stone. You'll also notice the legs on the cabinetry. You can't see it on the island because it's already kind of all blocked in because of the electrical, but you can see the legs on these cabinets all the way along here. Those are really sturdy footings to keep the cabinets straight, but also to withstand the weight of the stone. They're also adjustable so that they can make sure everything is perfectly plumb equal, so you're not going to get any cracks or shifting or bowing, which can be a common thing that happens with inferior cabinets. Now I want to tour you through the long bank of cabinets. We have a 9-foot ceiling in this kitchen, so we wanted the long run of the cabinets to go up to the ceiling. Might as well maximize your space. And one of my pet peeves is dusting. I didn't want to have anybody, including my daughter, climb up on a ladder to dust. So we made sure we ordered the extra tall stock that goes right up. They go up to about 6 inches prior to the ceiling. The cabinets come with a little skirting or apron at the top that they can tie in some crown molding. So make sure when you do your cabinet measures, if you want to make sure your cabinets go up to the ceiling, understand that there's a difference in runs between an 8-foot and a 9-foot ceiling. So in the drawing, the kitchen originally was coming to the end of here. This is the cavity for the dishwasher. And then, of course, this is the living room. We decided at the last minute to add in this extra bank of cabinetry for additional storage, which is now a pantry. So just a little extra storage, never hurts to have too much storage. From here on, we worked around a backsplash that we wanted to keep. We're going to have to do some fillers in when we finish, but that's basically grout work, so that'll be doable. So if they tell you you can't salvage your backsplash, they actually can, and you can do that.
Depending on the backsplash.
Depending on if you want to salvage the backsplash. Sometimes if you're doing a complete remodel, it's not worth salvaging. In this case, we had a really higher end porcelain herringbone pattern. We wanted to keep it. I'm a big believer in recycling and keeping what you can. So this worked for us and for this layout. This L shape is a classic design and we were keeping it. This is the roughing of where the sink's gonna go. So you can see they've actually cut out this wood top, so where the sink is gonna plug in, of course, once the quartz goes in. We've done quite a bit of research on the proper sink to go in here because we wanted to make sure we had an undermount and a sink that was meant for an undermount. We wanted to make sure there was going to be adequate space for a little garbage and recycling slider outer for under the cabinet because we're trying to save some space here. And then of course above we also have under counter lighting, so everything's going to be centered here. It is fashionable now. I'm noticing people are putting their tap off center, which can be attractive, but I'm a symmetrical girl and I like everything centered. So that's what we're going to do with this one. It's going to be quite attractive. Can't wait for you to see the finale. The under counter lighting, this is another feature with good quality cabinets. You get this skirting under here that's going to cover all your wiring. There'll be these lovely little under counter puck lights that go in there, and then they're all going to be wired through a switch here. Another code is in the kitchen, you can't have more than 2 plugs per circuit breaker, so for each fuse, so that we had a fair amount of electrical work that had to be done. The townhouse was built in 2002. Standards have changed in the last 21 years-ish. So we wanted to make sure it was up to code. We wanted to make sure it was safe. Which brings us to the hood fan, which isn't yet installed, but we've got all the electrical and the venting done. Now this is an interesting thing. This townhouse is part of a fourplex. So the hood fan is actually against the party wall. So you can't just vent straight out the way you would in some other homes. And of course, in a townhouse, even the middle ones often have to have their venting done a different way because they can't go to the outside because of the party wall. So this one is actually going up through this bulkhead, which was great that we had that little 6 inches above there. And then fortunately, we didn't have to cut the ceiling or the bulkhead, and then it goes to the exterior to vent out properly. Now, this is probably the single most important thing in the kitchen, because you want to make sure you're going to vent out all the negative air and you're going to bring in fresh air to replace it. It's even more important when we're dealing with a gas appliance, which we have a beautiful gas stove that's going in there. Because we also have a gas fireplace on this floor, ventilation was really, really important. There was a lot of math involved. Who knew there was a lot of math with BTUs and so forth? To make sure we had an adequate fan that's going to pull out all the exhaust and at the same time send a little digital signal to the furnace to pull in fresh air to replace it. It's really important that this all balances out because you don't want to risk carbon monoxide poisoning. The other thing is if the fan isn't pulling enough of the air through, it actually gets a backdraft and can push the carbon monoxide back into your living space. So these are all really important things, and it's really important to work with kitchen professionals to figure out ahead of time. So this is the oven cavity that, ovens are standard 30-inch wide unless you go with a really gourmet one. We went with a really nice oven that actually fits the 30-inch space just to be standard. We moved the gas line over. You can see it used to come here. We moved it over to the side. That was so that the stove can be pushed flushed against the wall, and it was the most economical way to do it. I was told by the contractor a very common way of doing it now is people actually build them into the cabinet on one side or the other, and then if you ever need to turn off the gas line, you don't actually have to pull the stove out. You can just pull the drawer out, reach in back, and turn off the gas. So that's a really good thing to plan for. In our case, we decided this was going to work. The stove now slides all the way in and to the back, so it's going to be flush up with the backsplash. Now, as you can see, the plug at the bottom, it used to be a 220 because most electric ovens are 220. That had to be converted to 110 for the particular gas stove that we purchased. So they converted it using that actual electrical outlet, which was a benefit. We didn't have to create a separate one on top of that. But if somebody ever did want to switch to an electric stove and go back to the 220, that actually can be converted back again. But I think once you use gas, you can't go back. The next decision that we had to make was one about the Lazy Susan. You know, the Lazy Susan is that corner cupboard that you pull out and it pivots around, and some people love them, some people hate them. Because of the layout of the kitchen, the accessibility to the Lazy Susan was going to be somewhat restricted. So we opted instead to do a bank of drawers, which would be much more effective. And then we put in this spice cabinet drawer and are having the dead space back there, which is the other reason why we decided to add that pantry. Far more accessible, and because we can go vertical with the 9-foot ceilings, we were going to end up with way more storage than we would have ever had in here. So, and then this is going to become primarily a workspace. Again, we've got the under-counter lighting. It's going to be quite nice when it's all said and done. Nearing the end, we have this upper bank of cabinets. So we decided to go with the glass doors. It also breaks up the monotony of all the cabinetry. And the girls had already talked about displaying cookbooks, displaying some of their crystal and wine glasses and stuff, and having one sort of kind of set up as like a bar, and the other one's going to be more for cooking stuff. Now, in our design too, these back panels in behind, we decided to opt for the same blue as the island because we thought that would really set off, especially once you put in the pot lights, it would really light it up. And then there was a little bit of a misorder, and so now we're waiting for the new panels to come in. But now that we see it with white, we're like, oh, well, the white looks nice too, but I'm still leaning towards the blue, so I guess you'll have to wait and see what we decide to do in the end. So at the end of the kitchen here, we have the fridge, and we wanted to add the water line. So as you can see, there's a hole in the hardwood where the water line used to be and it wasn't done correctly. So we decided to fix that. There also has to be a hammer on the water line so that you don't get backwater coming in. like it comes through. And then we have another plug that we have done here. I'm not quite sure what that's for, if that was just a plug that was there that they have to now tidy up. So there's a panel on either side. You want to make sure your fridge is paneled in on either side. Part of that is to go up and fit in with the upper cabinetry, and we wanted a full upper cabinet above our fridge. So that is where the fridge is going to go, and we have the water line. So we were very blessed. Thanks for watching this week's video on Val the Realtor. I hope you learned a lot about renovations and particularly the kitchen, the heart of the home. I look forward to seeing you each and every week, so please hit that subscribe button, like, comment, and share. I have one more video that'll be coming out in the renovation series, and it'll be when it's all done. We're looking forward to seeing the finish line. And in the meantime, see you next week. So close.